Today, the Darién is one of the most used migration routes in the world. While media reports of the Darién's humanitarian crisis describe a no-man's land of hellish conditions, impenetrable jungle, and deadly wildlife, in 2023 an estimated 400,000 migrants are expected to cross on foot northwards over a number of routes, some of which have come to resemble muddy highways. In August alone, a record was made of 58,000 people that crossed the Darién Gap. Colombia and Panama are the only countries in the Americas that share a land border but aren't linked by even a rudimentary road. That the Darién is the only land route between two continents makes the persistence of this blank space on the map an even more curious anomaly of human geography. Over the course of its history, numerous attempts have been made to take advantage of the Darién's strategic position, some more serious than others, but all have been thwarted by nature or politics. In the early 16th century, the Darién's prospects looked different. Founded by conquistador Vasco Núñez de Balboa in 1510, on Caribbean shores close to the entrance to the Gulf of Uraba, the town of Santa Maria la Antigua del Darién was one of the first European settlements on mainland America. The history of Spanish colonialism in Latin America began in the Darién, and Santa Maria la Antigua served as a jungle training school for the conquistadors. In September 1513, Balboa led an expedition through the jungles and mountains of the Darién, becoming the first known European to reach the American shores of the Pacific. The indigenous Cueva people's tales of a gold-rich kingdom to the south galvanized Francisco Pizarro, another early inhabitant of Santa Maria la Antigua, to set off on his bloody and treacherous conquest of the Inca. Meanwhile, the Cueva were driven to extinction by violent Spanish conquest, European diseases, and conflict with the Cuna people migrating north from Colombia. But the prominence of Santa Maria la Antigua was short-lived. 5 years after Balboa's voyage, the discovery of a flatter, quicker route allowed the Spanish to lay the foundations for Panama City. Santa Maria la Antigua was abundant, then sacked by indigenous groups, and the Darién fell quickly into an obscurity that made it a natural habitat for outlaws, including British pirates who used it to harass their Spanish rivals. In 1690-80, Scottish banker William Patterson hatched a scheme to colonize the Darién in the name of the Scottish Empire. The former Bank of England governor had never set foot in Panama. His bold plan to create a Scottish Amsterdam of the Indies had been met with ridicule. Hindered by poor preparations, cut off by an English trade ban, and besieged by the Spanish, only a few hundred of the 2,500 Scottish settlers who set foot in the Darién made it out alive. Patterson's failure bankrupted the Scottish economy and helped to force Scotland into unification with England in 1707. But his idea of using the Darién to control the doors of the seas, to give laws to both oceans, and to become the arbitrators of the commercial world would inspire future daredevils and utopian thinkers. After the discovery of Californian gold in 1848, the race to find a sea route to the Pacific focused on the Darién, where the distance between the oceans was the shortest. In 1854, a US expedition disappeared for 49 days in the jungle, battling starvation and insanity. Its leader, naval officer Isaac Strain, concluded the mountains made Darién utterly impractical for a canal. In 1870, the US tried again with an expedition team of over 100 men, an arsenal of the era's most modern surveying equipment, and a telegraph cable rolled out all the way to New York. But in spite of the most careful preparations, the expedition also depended upon extraordinary persistence and willingness to endure hardships. Promises of an easier Darién route had turned out to be a fabrication, but the idea of a sea-level canal in the Darién refused to die. In 1964, 50 years after the opening of the Panama Canal, the US and Panama agreed to investigate the option of using 325 nuclear explosions to blast a 60-mile trench through the territory. A New York Times article suggested that the nuclear fallout would be safe, given the deep jungle was only sparsely populated. If the goal of connecting the oceans was a military and trade imperative for the US, the idea of connecting North and South America through the Darién was founded on Pan-Americanism, the ideal of greater commercial and cultural cooperation throughout the Western Hemisphere. At the 5th International Conference of American States held in Santiago, 1923, the idea of linking the Americas by road was first proposed, and in Canada 1937, the US and 12 Latin American states signed a convention on the Pan-American Highway, each committing to build their sections of a road stretching from Alaska to Patagonia. In 1960, a crew from the National Geographic Society crossed the gap in jeeps. It took 101 days, averaging 3 miles a day, and required the construction of 125 makeshift bridges. The next year, National Geographic magazine hailed the possibility of a road through the area. By the 1970s, everything was ready. The US had agreed to pay 2/3 of the construction costs for the Pan-American Highway, with Latin American countries paying only 1/3. US President Richard wanted to drive through the gap in time for the 1976 bicentennial and hoped the Darién section might be named after him. The project became seen as the material embodiment of Pan-Americanism. In Panama, the arrival of the nationalist military government of Omar Torrijos shifted the focus of US-Panamanian relations to negotiations over the future of the canal and the surrounding US-controlled zone. In South America, particularly Argentina, the highway came to be seen as a tool of US imperialism. And following the election of Ronald Reagan, the US principal goal in Central America became aiding the fight against left-wing guerrilla groups. In an atmosphere of growing environmentalism, in 1977, the Sierra Club sued the US Department of Transportation, claiming a Darién road would be a disaster for the environment and the indigenous people. The argument that the gap provided a natural barrier against foot and mouth disease swayed the decision in their favor. That disease has since been controlled in South America, but opposition to the road on environmental and cultural grounds remained strong, thanks to its role as a land bridge between the Americas and a facilitator of biotic exchange between continents. The Darién is one of the most biodiverse spots on the planet, with 1 in 5 species being endemic to the region. The local Kuna people have also consistently opposed the road. According to them, the road would brutally damage the ecology in the region. Others believe that the current status quo is not sustainable. Over the last 3 decades, 40% of the region's rainforest has been cut down for cattle grazing and mainly illegal harvests of precious woods, such as the rare cocobolo tree. The Clan del Golfo, Colombia's largest criminal syndicate, has thrived by taxing the guys who charge migrants $70 to $150 to cross the gap. The Darién province makes up a quarter of Panama's territory but remains one of its poorest areas. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to be notified about our latest videos.